December 30th, 2018 was the first time I take a psychedelic, LSD. It cured my depression. It gave me an objective to resolve the dichotomy, so-called, between science and religion, identification of the psychological reality, which I would call like enteria, just the recognition of the spirit world, essentially. This world within that could be accessed through dreams and meditation, psychedelics, etc. The collective unconscious, if you will. I would have these visionary experiences outside of psychedelics after taking them a couple times. I call them callings. It was this strange dissociative state where start seeing eyes and mandalas. They would be associated with migraines as well. They would also be associated with smoking weed. Strange visions, going through tunnels, meeting strange entities, finding artifacts. The callings were repeated spontaneous trances where the tunnel would often be encountered along with spirits and other stuff. I found the cult of the void, worshipped chaos and destruction and the ultimate annihilation. Ultimate annihilation is their goal. They deem the world to be an absurdist tragedy, and so they sort of like turn that against itself and find purpose in being by seeking to destroy the world. They find it better to be off dead, and so this pursuit in turn gives them meaning and purpose, a reason to be in spite of the absurdist tragedy of being itself. See, left-brained, womb, and narcotically obsessed. Matrix worshippers. And then April 6th, 2019, I have my second LSD trip. God is as I am is what I realized, just as well as we or you are. And the scent of the fruit salad sent me back to my grandparents' backyard. Really measuring out or being able to define like the line between the inner and the outer, coming up with all of these different like synonyms for these two domains of being, quantitative and qualitative, and then matter and mind, pattern, matter. But heaven and earth is really like, that's what you should be calling it. Like, that's what it is. And then under the umbrella terms of heaven and earth, there's mind and matter and inner and outer, etc. Sixfold symmetry was a pretty big deal to me. Revelation of how AI was to subjugate humanity, really like falling out of the whole atheist materialist paradigm. Continuous callings, inducing headaches, the sound of roaring winds and a tension in my jaw associated with nausea, connected to THC consumption, and most commonly occurred around sunset. And then on the 6th month and 16th day of 2019, I took LSD again. Starting to catch on to how there are like dualities nested within dualities. So for instance, you have like the yin and the yang of left and right, but then both of those correspond to a higher like yin and yang between horizontal and vertical. And then like within the vertical, if you go back down, you can find a yin and yang between up and down. I'm not sure if I was respectively speaking or not. So yeah, yin and yang, they map onto male and female, not masculinity and femininity. Masculinity and femininity map onto black and white, but male and female are more real than masculinity and femininity. And we only know of masculinity and femininity through like abstracting out the essence of men relative to women. Bite a tooth, look at the back of your head, cut a knife with its own blade, and look at your own face. Ask yourself who watches through your eyes. The truth is experienced, it's not known. It's like a person. It is a person. I'm trying to share like my trip reports, but it's hard to do because I was basically constantly tripping to the point where even between trips, I was like still kind of tripping. So I was just constantly constant revelation. Yeah, here we go. LSD trip, December 31st, 2019. Every interaction encapsulates everything that could be in any given interaction. If you were only moral, you would never suffer. This is false. The suffering is only made worth it and bearable by dreams and the power to change reality. Each vibe pertains to a pattern in or of reality with a potential to be perceived. You are in a simulation. The hardware is in your head. The software is in your heart. Say less, keep your hands to yourself, and relax your face. April 3rd, 2020 was my first mushroom trip. It's much more dreamlike than LSD. I had persistent yawning, fell into deep trance constantly. I rejected thought entirely. in favor of just being. Poor short-term memory. There was just here and now. And I played this game with the other two I was tripping with, which we called, not very elegantly or creatively, the stepping game, where we started with the proposition of I am, and tried to like build truth upon that self-evident reality. Whenever we could make like a positive proposition or any proposition that we could all agree to, we would take a step forward, and then we just kept going, fleshed out like morality, stuff like that. Yeah, I am, why is anything, why am I, what is the right question to ask? Why are we even asking questions? Because it's a game. Why play the game? For the sake of well-being, because well-being is good. And not all of this is true, by the way. I've taken a lot of steps back at this point to be able to go further on ahead, but in any event. In this game, well-being increases with consciousness. Purpose is not an objective, it's a direction. Evil is that which comes between well-being or my purpose and I. Evil is real. Evil may be another player or an object or even my own self. Wow, this is all cat, bruh. Evil doesn't exist. What are you talking about? Yeah, the game is never on pause. Yeah, basically just using this whole analogy of a game and like stat spread and spawning and all this stuff as an analogy for reality. Let's see, catching on to the fractal nature of things. Another psychedelic trip, LSD. Make sure you guys are tripping alone, by the way. If you're going to trip alone. Helped me to develop a sense of conviction, direction, masculinity, kind of, do. Yeah, and then I didn't cut my hair for like 5 moon cycles. I recommend you guys give that a try. Try boxing as well and get out of bed by dawn. And this brings us to my first DMT trip. So this is really the meat and potatoes that I was trying to get to. This isn't just my DMT trip. We'll get to a few others. So my first DMT trip, I heard like a cicada sound, and everything became like glass. Like everything became so clear and crisp, like reflective too. Like I was able to see into the natural pattern of things and how everything is perfectly symmetrical if you can see it along the right axis, which is like your own center line, which runs through the heart, not just your corpus. Yeah, I had this strange feeling of being at my house. It was as if like my soul broke off from my body and I like went back to my place, and I was like watching my brother over his shoulder, and I could hear my mom coming down the stairs. One of my friends was talking the whole time, and his speech was incomprehensible and obnoxious. I was faced by like these two different worlds. One was like muddy, earthy, rigid, and compacted, and that was the realm of just being and letting things go by, ironically. And then the realm of doing, which would be to say shh, was just this open, wide blue sky. Could have a direct audience with God. And then I did it again immediately after. It tasted terrible. I threw up. I went to hell. I was faced with Satan himself, who stuck out his tongue further and further as I lamented my situation more and more. Suffering can be just as meaningful and good as well-being. God controls time, and my attitude like maps on to God's mood. It's like what you put out is what you're going to get back. And so if you hate your life and you hate your situation and you're getting upset and full of regret, this world is a mirror. And so my brother had a DMT trip where there was this dark figure looming over him who reminded him of me. He basically said to stop here. My brother asked why, and then it disappeared. Later, he had a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, which was also within a dream, and then he shaved his head a few days just before that, before attempting suicide a few days after that. Then another friend of mine took DMT on May 5th. He probably had one of the most profound experiences that I know of. He saw the light, and he was able to grasp it. But before that, his soul was still tied to his body, but he managed to sever the ties by taking a sip of water and getting rid of that god-awful flavor of DMT. When he touched the light, he was filled with absolute willpower. It was the truth, it was himself, it was inspiration. One only comes to know God through union with him. Another friend of mine took it. He entered that DMT space with the tethers between his soul and body. So these tethers seem to relate to like physical disturbance, and so with friend I just mentioned, he was tied to his body by the taste in his mouth, and this guy was tied to his body by the coldness on his skin. Another friend of mine, he would take it and the thing just bounced right off of him. He took DMT on several occasions, never had anything profound happen to him. Well, I guess the most profound thing that happened was he saw the light, and when he reached for it, it moved away. Another friend of mine took it. He would open doors, and with each door gain a new perspective, and he could go through several at once. Each door was like it was also just like geometry thing, like entity. He had something to like open and pry or pull the door open. He went through countless doors, and the last door was the understanding that the need to open these doors was ego driven and generated suffering. With this gnosis, he came to accept that some doors were closed, and by like closing this certain door, all doors were open. There was some other entity that was guiding him along the way that was kind of like a look over here, kind of this way, follow me, like gesture fella. These like doorways, they weren't really doorways, they were like entities, like they were like beings, and they were him. They were like parts of himself, I guess. They were like questions. And every time he would open one of these entities, it was like a wave would come over him, and he would like take it up like a sponge, and he would grow with each one, not in size but in mind. It's like integrated information. Then I had my second mushroom trip. As it came on, I sensed something very big coming towards me very fast. I had a far out trance, affinity for meditation. Walking into the spider web caused that strange insectoid mandalic vision. To be totally honest, looking back, I don't remember really much at all of whatever happened, but I'm certain it was all quite meaningful. Here and now is with you wherever you go. It's a matter of memory, not achievement. The everyman, that NPC archetype, the last man, is a real thing, man, and don't look them in the eyes, whatever you do. Yeah, the DMT gave me a pretty rough patch. Shit was just not going good in life after that for a long while. LSD trip, I finally found who I was looking for, and they told me that they'd been here waiting all along. And then they asked, now that you found us, do you really think that you're like us? And I felt as if I wasn't, and it felt bad. I saw penguins flying around for the sake of beauty. I met with him. He was white with a silhouette of rainbow. Then he became me, and then we smiled at each other. And he went on to show me the wonder of everything at every scale. It's interesting how we can lose ourselves in dreams, even while awake, taking on the identity of whatever puts itself in front of us without question. Perhaps this too is a dream. Who am I really? And who or what is the ultimate dreamer? If we can have dreams within dreams. Once I went to make a request, and I was interrupted because I wanted to go smoke. I heard him say no, but I hit it anyways, and then I choked and I coughed and I felt nauseous, and it brought me to my knees in apology. I asked if we were still friends, and he said that our relationship was unlike any other. It was indescribable. This is between you and the infinite. Then he took my hand and told me he'd like to show me something, and pulled back the veil. I said, of course, let us go. Along the way, he revealed himself to be me, and there was a moment where I broke off into a third person's perspective and could see us together, and I lost track of who was the original me. And I guess it's just the reality that we both are. November 1st, 2020 was another mushroom trip. My being split between my body and mind and awareness. Oh, I have a segment of this trip recorded. It's like the first video on this channel in terms of date, at least of my public videos. The soul was kind of looking down upon the body as primitive, and the body just kind of burped in response, while the eye just watched. As I was looking around, I saw big studio lights and cameras and an audience all watching me, and I caught a glimpse of the Greek pantheon and realized that I was Mount Olympus. I had dissociative identity disorder, and every statement I made thrust me into a new personality. And after an innumerable amount of switches, a sort of meta personality developed who spoke in the third person, and this happened twice. The second time, they started to remove their clothing in an attempt to like find the true self and really like anchor themselves. Then I went into the closet before laying down. I prayed for those I loved and closed the door. Then I had a vision of the closet being a coffin, and my spirit parents laid me down. My mother was saying, "Don't worry." My father was telling me that, I could do it. And then I fell into a deep dissociation. And by the time I woke up, my whole body was gone, save for like from my nose up. And even that was shrinking away. I became afraid of death. Then I saw a demon, some sort of insectoid primate, start pulling away at the corner of the closet. So I left the closet and I could see them watching me. In reality, I should have fought using some sort of yoga or something. I don't know. But yeah, I just ran into my bed. Got lost in the sauce in the forest of dreams. So yeah, my fear of death sort of conjured itself into this demonic looking form. And so I left the closet, got lost in the dream forest. Dream after dream, there was something chasing me in some, or otherwise there was just a short dream and then I died. In others, I became lucid and then I came back into reality, and I would catch myself in the reflection of my phone because I was recording myself at this time. It was such a powerful anchor, but then I would fall back into the dreams. They were more like splinter realities, each with like their own set of characters, and then I would like take up one of the characters as my own. There was one point where there was a bunch of little people asking me, who are you? Who are you? When I really became lucid, like for a series of dreams, like everyone was just staring at me, like reality after reality, everyone just breaking character and watching me. They're like, oh shit, he's awake. Yeah, life is but the longest dream. Sleep is like death. And I was visited again by my spirit mother as I came back to reality. Speak your mind, say yes, and move. This was my 4th mushroom trip. I saw a speck of light and I traveled through the dark tunnels to follow it. And eventually I found the light and it led out into the world. And standing in the doorway, I made peace with the world within, these tunnels where I was following the light. And I went without, incarnating. Let's see, then I had a trip that I swore I'd never speak of. Mushroom trip in Amsterdam, which I've already talked about in another video. Yeah, mushroom trip at Nietzsche's grave, which I've also already talked about. May 13th of last year, I took Molly for the first time. I'd taken it a couple times before, but I mean, after that, it was like, obviously I'd never taken enough. It was like I'd never done it before. Molly changed the game, for sure. Especially for all you philosophically left-brain minded motherfuckers like me. Molly, bro. It's hard. It's a whole new domain of the psyche. It's all in the heart. It revolutionized, honestly, my philosophy, and it revolutionized, like, my art, too. I completely shifted gears. I've basically been done with writing ever since, and I've just been drawing. Much more fixated on images now than words. It's all about the heart, and it's all in the breath. It's all about the vibe. Each heart has one, and you're really trying to seek harmony. I would recommend taking it on your own. Dude, if I took it on my own, that would have been it would have been so awesome, man. I took it at like there was like a club. No, it wasn't a club, it was like a concert, underground EDM thing. I left immediately, instantly. But shoot, dude. It was so awesome. But you just gotta let it all go, brother. Alright, don't feel guilty for feeling so good. Just let it happen. There's no shame. You already did it. All is vanity. There was no bad vibe that came. Oh, there was a bad vibe that came on in a rhythm. Although I think that had more to do with who was there with me than it did have to do with me. it makes you very naive too, very childish. Like it's hard to really like look at people and see something wrong with them, which sounds really nice, but then it's like then it's like you're just wondering like why do I feel like shit, and you can't even fathom that it's the other person who's making you feel this way because there's something wrong with them and like they have this toxicity or what have you. But it was interesting to feel like the rhythm of it, like a very clear rhythm. It got weaker every time, but it was like a consistent, like I want to call it maybe every 5 minutes. Perfect rhythm, like on cue, like I could predict it, like feel it, like knew it was coming before it would. Such a subtle thing too, like Bad Vibe that came in rhythm, playing its tune in episodes. Straighten up a bit, relax, close your eyes and breathe. I would keep sighing. I would just keep letting it out, like, ah, like just revert, just vibrate, just let it out, sigh and groan, whatever you gotta do. A vibe is like a song, it's not a note. There are pitches and rhythms, frequencies. Most creatures have simple melodies, some even play single notes in a constant rhythm, but most people have an insane song in them. The forest is a choir while the city is silent, save for a whimper. The living leave echoes in their wake wherever they go. Such do beings make others reverberate. So much of the heart is in the breath. And then my last trip I had, I also have some footage of myself on camera during that trip. It's the Who I Am video. So that is a journal of my trip reports for the most part. Don't think I really missed anything. So I'll leave it at that. I feel... Alright guys, be easy, have a good one, peace out.